This is Grapplers Talk.
What is up, fans of Grapplers Talk? This is Dave coming at you with another episode. Thank you to all of the fans for downloading the podcast each and every week. We appreciate the love and support we get on the show. And we had an awesome weekend this past weekend in Visalia with the Arte Suave team. And I was doing commentary out there. It was a blast. And I'm excited to see where this thing's going, excited to meet the fans, and looking forward to seeing this growth on the podcast. Never quite thought that it would be where it's at this stage. And I'm excited. I'm ready. And I'm ready to bring you guys an awesome interview today. This is somebody we've talked about numerous times on the podcast. He's been brought up. If you've been training jiu-jitsu, if you've been grappling, if you've been wrestling in this town, you've heard the name. You know all the legendary stories. I'm sitting here with a very good friend of mine, none other than JC Cearley, man. What is up? Welcome.
How's it going, Dave?
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of this. And I truly appreciate your time. I wanted to have you on just so we could get into a couple things, man. And let's talk first about your wrestling history. And the Cearley name is infamous with wrestling, and Bobby has great accolades, but you have amazing accolades in wrestling. And I wanted to talk about how you got started. What age were you when you started walking on the mats, and what was your mentality getting into it?
Man, I honestly didn't start wrestling until I got to high school. I didn't know that wrestling was even a sport, to tell you the truth. Before that, I spent my time as a kid pretty much playing Legos and watching Star Trek and drawing, right? And
Video games?
A bit of video games. I don't think I was very good at them. And then we always kind of had the last console before, or, when everyone had the new one, right? So I was usually going over my friend's house trying to get, some time on their console and things. But, I played a lot of sports. My dad was always really active with, getting us into something or coaching. I started Pop Warner when I was, 6 or 7, and then I couldn't make weight after that.
You were a big kid, right?
I was a pretty big kid, yeah. I want to say that in 4th grade I was probably like 200 pounds or something.
Jeez, that's pretty crazy. I've seen pictures of you at your grandma's house as a baby, and I mean, even like 3-4 years old, maybe. I don't know, but you were a huge baby.
Yeah, I suppose I was pretty big. I'd probably get to owe that to my Polynesian side.
Yeah.
Even though I think that there's a bit of Scot in there too, so maybe some Scottish blood mixed in with the Islander. I don't know, right?
It's got to come. I mean, your family has great genetics. Like I've seen the Polynesian side of your family, but even like the white people's side of your family.
Yeah.
They're
my dad is not a small guy.
No,
for sure.
not at all.
Yeah. So played some Pop Warner football, always played baseball, tried to be, or I think my dad tried to have us, maintain some sort of athleticism, right? And I think I was probably, fairly athletic as a bigger kid, right? And then, went to high school. I really only had plans to play football, and my dad knew about wrestling. He wanted me to try it out. I think he might have wrestled a year in high school or something. And I felt like it would be beneficial towards football, right? And so I went out, wrestled with their heavyweights there. I think that I felt in my mind I had the capability of beating the heavyweight that was varsity as a freshman, but I think that I don't know. I had like a kind of a sense of morality or something. I felt like, oh,
You didn't wanna
it's
take
like
his spot
he was,
or- yeah.
yes, last year. My dad
Yeah.
asked me, he's like, can't you beat him? Like, oh, it's his last year, I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, I, ended up wrestling that year, went out to baseball and, thought I was going to get to play baseball since I played all of my childhood.
Yeah.
And my coach told me that I'm cut, and Coach Rubes wants to see you in the weight room for track and field, because back then they didn't do year-round football training.
Yeah.
So all the football players all threw shot put and disc. So I went there and got to weight train and prepare for football season, and that was pretty much my goal, right? I mean.
And you were a great football player too, right?
Yeah, I mean, fairly decent, I suppose. I mean, I did, gain some accolades there and, get, all area type, athlete and things like that, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember Johnny was in like the all-star football game at the end of high school.
Yeah.
You were in that too, though,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So,
Yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't bad in football, and I was getting, a lot of looks from schools, and went on some recruiting trips and things like that. And
did anyone ever wine and dine you? Like,
yeah, Berkeley was pretty nice. Went out there and did a recruiting trip there. Went out to San Jose State and had a crazy recruiting trip there. I think that it was the recruiting trip that made me lose the offer, to tell you the truth.
sometimes that happens.
Oh,
Right?
I
you hear those
got
stories.
so smashed and embarrassed myself. It was just ridiculous. I mean, and San Jose State's a great school, but
Yeah.
I was fortunate to get to go to Fresno. I think that by my senior year, I was really kind of locked into grappling and wrestling, right? I mean, I enjoyed football, but and the earning potential, obviously, as a football player is or at least back then was much larger than grappler.
Yeah.
or
The
a
UFC
fighter.
wasn't what it was today.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Even back then, the top UFC fighters were making $5,000 a fight sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, I wasn't getting paid that much. I mean, that was about around where I was getting paid when I was fighting too, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the feeling of being out in any competition where it's a one-on-one competition and your success is dependent upon you is a really amazing feeling, and the satisfaction that you get from competing on your own and winning and digging deep to know that was because of you definitely was way more satisfying for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't really get that on the football field, especially as a lineman,
aspect,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you get your sacks and things like that, right? But it's definitely a different feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your high school wrestling career and how it developed over those 4 years, and getting into that. Like, how was it the coaching that you really liked, or what about it drove you to continue to want to do that? And the other thing is, like, obviously you were a big guy, so were you just way bigger than all of these other kids? Did you continue to grow, and how did that work?
Yeah, I think that when I came in as a freshman, I was still larger than most, but I was probably not much bigger than everyone. I think I was about 260, 255, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And then my sophomore year and junior year, I was about 275. And then when I came out from football my senior year, I was probably like 295, so I had to drop 20 pounds.
Wow.
But I mean, back then it's still not terribly difficult for me to lose weight now, but I just essentially just drank water for a week and worked out, and then it was gone. So that was a great advantage of youth, right?
Yeah.
But I think if I hadn't had the guidance or the push from my dad, I probably wouldn't have played sports, to tell you the truth. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed doing art and science. I enjoyed Star Trek, right? Legos. I was totally kind of a nerdy kid.
You had Legos even as an adult.
Oh yeah, I still like playing with Legos with my kids, right? Building, right? It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, all my friends used to get irritated when we played Legos together because you
got to do it a certain way.
Well, not necessarily. You get together, right? And you have your Lego box. And then, you spend like the first 30 minutes just building stuff, right? Because you're going to battle afterwards, right? Yeah. And then I'd build like these ships, and they'd have like ships that separated from the other ships and like shield generators and things like that. And they'd shoot their missile, and they'd be like, "Oh, I got you." I'm like, "No, you didn't hit the shield generator. And there's the deflector shield." Like, they get all pissed off, right? But, so... If it hadn't been for my dad, I would have, probably not played. But since I was a big kid and he wanted me to, be active, I did it. And it was fortunate for me because I, was fairly good at what I did. And, going through my freshman year as a JV athlete and doing well. I think I might have won league that year
as a junior,
as a freshman.
Okay,
but in JV, right?
Yeah.
And I was definitely proud of myself, but I think that the transformation that happens from wrestling was really what I felt. I felt kind of. That athleticism kind of building, right, and kind of coming into my body. And so the next year when it came around, I took a week off from football and went back out there, took the varsity spot, went to some amazing tournaments, the Sierra Nevada Classic, Reno tournament, and, performed fairly well. Had some tough matches. I think that I remember one match where my dad and coach like jumped all over the mat and started like flipping out because some guy that was like a senior, he had like punched me in the face or something like that, and I was like just like spitting blood everywhere or something like that. But I mean. No, I mean, I
can imagine that moment though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was eye opening because it's the closest sport in high school that you'll have if your high school doesn't have a boxing or kickboxing class or sport that is reminiscent of an actual fight, right?
Yeah.
And it's that rewarding feeling, and seeing your body like change and grow was intoxicating, right? And kind of finding out that you're an adrenaline junkie, right?
Yeah.
Is
wrestlers have a whole different breed of toughness. It teaches you something. I don't know. Like you even see the Buffalo Bills head coach is a former wrestler, and you just see that guy on the headlines or sidelines, and he's just always like intense in the moment. He's a tough coach.
Yeah.
But it teaches you something about being tough and not quitting, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember it was multiple times, but I remember the first time I was in a match my freshman year and feeling like I could die right now. I mean, I don't think I could have, but I just felt like, wow, like I feel crushed. I can't move. I'm like fighting for my life off my back. I'm gonna suffocate, right? And making it out and making it through, right, to the other end. And win or lose, it builds, a sense of confidence that you can, handle and take on challenges in your life
100%.
and make it through, right? And it's going to make you stronger, right? And so that definitely gave me the sense to kind of look for those difficult things and kind of latch on to them,
Gravitate
right?
towards them, right?
Yeah. I mean, if not, I wouldn't have went back to school in my 30s to get my, master's in computer engineering, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, but
A lot of people say it's too late, right? You can't.
yeah,
do that
never,
kind of
never.
stuff.
Yeah, it's never too late to reinvent yourself and to do the things that you want, right? I mean,
Yeah.
life's a journey, and
We're here for a limited time too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you take advantage of every second, every day on this earth.
absolutely. I think you should definitely enjoy the things that you do, right? Value the experiences you've went through, whether they were good or bad, because they made you who you are, right? And not worry about lost time or wasted time, right? Because that was just a part of the journey, right? And just makes the saga
part of the path, right?
Yeah, makes the saga a little bit more epic, right?
Yeah.
So, getting back to your question, freshman year, I think that I won league, won a bunch of tournaments. Don't really remember. I'm sure I lost a bunch too. Sophomore year, kind of up and down. First year varsity, right? Did win a good amount of tournaments, lost a fair amount, but I think league, I was pretty solid. I think that I won league that year. I don't know if I took second in league any of the years, to tell you the truth. Made it to subsections, and then I didn't make it to sections that year. My junior year, same thing. I think I made to subsections, and
So to clarify, because it's changed, right?
Yeah.
So subsections was before sections. Sections got you to state.
Yeah,
right?
it was league, subsections, sections, then state. And then I want to say that now it's league, masters, then sections, or subsections, then masters. I can't remember what it is.
It's
but
a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different. Then I had this really heartbreaking match with this guy, Randall Brown, Los Banos, at subsections, or maybe it was sections. I think I made to sections both years, actually. I never made it out of sections both those years.
Both years in varsity, right?
One match away from state, and I think I lost that match. And it was frustrating. I remember like dragging this guy in on the mat, right? And he's like trying to flee the mat. I didn't get any stalling call and stuff, and really irritated the crap out of me. And so I remember coming back my senior year from my first tournament, right? Felt good, felt strong. We just won the section championships for football, which was as far as you could go, right? For high school football at the time. Right now, California has a state tournament, but before we could only go to sections. And so wrestling season just started. I just, cut all that weight, made weight for this tournament, go to the tournament and make it to the finals, and then get second. And I lose to this kid. I want to say it was like from like Palo Alto High or something like that. I can't remember where. Will C. Wood is where he was from, actually. And then he said he'd just been wrestling for like a year or two, and I just lost to him, and I was just so upset. And I remember the drive home, and I told my dad, I was like, man, I just don't think I got it. And he's basically either do it or don't, like,
yeah,
no in
that's
between.
not the thing to tell your dad.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, hey, shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I just, kind of had, my long talk with myself over that weekend. Went back to work on Monday, right? Went back to practice. And I just decided that I am gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it. And I made it a point to, beat everyone. Didn't matter if you were lighter or bigger than me. Like, I was gonna be first in sprints. I was gonna be first in conditioning, right? I was gonna be first at everything I could be, right? And fortunately that paid off because I started winning.
You think you manifested that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I definitely felt the mentality shift, right? And I think that it was important for me to kind of have that conversation with myself. I think that I more than likely could have had that conversation earlier, but I felt like, I'm a senior. I'm the same age as everyone I'm going to go up against. Like, I don't believe there's anyone that can beat me that's my age.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it had to do with my age, right?
Yeah.
I don't
whatever
know.
It worked,
yeah,
right?
whatever it was, right? I just felt like there is no one that can beat me, and I'm going to do everything that I can to, be as fast as the fast guys and as good of a shooter as the shooters, right? That aren't heavyweights, because heavyweights aren't typically known for that, right? And so I just made it a point to kind of, be the best athlete possible. And I ended up going undefeated up until my state finals match after that. So shout out to...
So made it all the way to the finals in state that year.
Yeah. So shout out to the Wilsey Wood kid that kicked my ass my senior year at that first tournament.
Yeah. You probably don't even remember his name, right?
I don't.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
I remember laughing because I told my mom about it, and he was a Samoan kid, right? And, then my mom's, part Tongan, right? And she's like, oh, you better not tell your Nana that you lost to Samoan. She's like, just going to kick your ass.
Yeah, you're talking about decades of, stuff here. But that's pretty awesome. So let's talk about the transition. What happened in that finals match that in state that caused you to lose?
Yeah, so it was a tough match. The kid that I wrestled against, he was from Barstow, California. I think that came from a wrestling family. His brother, I believe, had been to state before. He had been to state before, and I think his brother was a heavyweight before him. We came out, like I said, I'm a shooter, right, as a heavyweight. He kept digging in for underhooks, trying to get a throw or some sort of like body lock, right, to drag me down. And I would just pummel it out, clearing away. Going for shots. He stuffed a couple of them. Didn't end up getting any of the takedowns, but I was being active, right? Actively moving, shooting, working, ties and setups for shots. We ended up going into the third period tied because both of us had escapes. And I don't know, for whatever reason, the ref wanted to make deciding call and decide who wins the match, but I pummel out and I clear myself away to get open and take a shot. And I don't even get the caution for the stalling call.
Yeah.
He just gives them 1 point. So now I'm down a point.
Yeah.
And there's like 30 seconds or whatever's left. I'm, getting in there, shooting, stuffing shots, standing up, working hard. And, last few seconds, I go for broke, try to get the shot, and then don't get it. He circles around, gets takedown. He wins by 3 points. But really, we would have taken it into overtime if he hadn't got that stalling call, But it is what it is. I mean, ultimately, there's you have to be prepared to win that fight and take that win, right? And ultimately, it's on me for not doing more to have secured that and make the ref's call irrelevant, right? Because that's just the way that you have to approach competition, right? You have to secure that victory and not let anybody decide it for you.
Yeah.
So
If you can't let it go into the hands of the judges is a famous call, but you're in control in that situation. But obviously with a pretty impressive wrestling season, you were talking about getting into Fresno and going there. Let's talk about your time at Fresno.
Yeah.
Now this was there was a while, I don't know where they stand now, but there was a while where wrestling wasn't around at Fresno, right?
Yes, they're not around now.
Okay, so still like that.
Yeah, so I think that before I left, it was there for another 2 years, and then they dropped the program. They brought it back for a few seasons, and then it disappeared again.
Was it funding, or do you know what the cause was for
What
that?
I was always told was it was a Title IX thing, and partially funding. I mean, ultimately, schools are businesses. They're trying to make money. Unfortunately, wrestling is not a huge money-making sport. So they dropped it to make room for another women's sport that would make more money. It would have been nice if women's wrestling was as popular as now, because then they could have just added. Absolutely. Yeah. They would have gotten the money they needed and probably drawn more crowds. I mean,
do you ever see it coming back there?
I hope so. I mean, it would be really nice. I mean, Fresno area is still the mecca for wrestling, right? And so, all the schools like Clovis High and Buchanan and everyone around there are still huge contenders for wrestling. And so I think that it would just make sense. And it would be great to see the state tournament go out there to the Staples Center right now. Everyone's driving out to Bakersfield, which, nothing wrong with Bakersfield, but for everyone up in the north, right. But for everyone up in the north, it's a long drive, right? And so it'd be nice if there was something a little bit closer. It was great for me. I got to go and have the state tournament in my backyard and go to the Spano Center, right? Yeah. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Wake up in my own bed, go to the tournament.
It doesn't get any better than that.
No, I was definitely fortunate to have that opportunity. But so I ended up I kind of had a bit of senioritis my senior year, right? My high school kind of life was definitely a kind of
adolescent
quintessential stage. Varsity blues type of story, right? It really felt like us as kids really got the run of the school. We didn't have a lot of requirements set on us, you know. We were definitely treated very favorably by the school and staff, and you know, it was definitely great, you know, but it definitely kind of hurt, and so because of that, I ended up not making grades for my Berkeley scholarship, because otherwise I would have been playing football in Berkeley. Yeah. But, you know, like I said, I was really more focused on wrestling and being an athlete anyway. And so ended up, you know, working hard after wrestling season, get my grades up, and then got picked up by Fresno. You know, went
for
there
football or wrestling?
For football. Or no, I'm sorry, for wrestling. Yeah. So went there on scholarship for wrestling. Also, you know, I didn't mention this before, but I did go on a recruiting trip there for football as well as wrestling, right? And so the football coach was definitely excited to have me on the team, but they weren't going to pay me money, right? They just wanted me to walk on, and if I made the team, they'd give me money. And so I ended up going there for wrestling, but the rule was that the primary sport that you're there for, you have to play before you go out for the other team, right? And so since wrestling is after football, I had to wait a season to go out to football. Whether or not that was some bullshit that my coach was just telling me,
yeah,
I don't know. I still,
you didn't read the fine print.
Yeah. But I did that. Went and decided to redshirt my freshman year, and unfortunately ended up tearing my ACL that season or at the end of the season. And so even if I wanted to go to football, I wasn't able to because I was still in recovery, and just ended up, I was still kind of recovering during the beginning of my sophomore season, right?
Wow.
So
it's a long recovery, right?
Yeah. I mean, they definitely had me on the mats soon afterwards, but as far as performance goes, it wasn't quite there. And for me as a heavyweight, I think I ended up ballooning up to like 330, 340 pounds, wow, right? And so I was like 285, it was our max, right? So I was quite a bit heavier, but
a lot of weight to lose, right? That's 60 something pounds.
Yeah. Wow. So ended up, I ended up losing the weight. But then season came, and went to some tournaments, did well, was wrestling well, and I think that I may have already known that my ex-wife and girlfriend at the time was pregnant with my first child, right? Yeah. And so even though I had all the intentions of staying in school and wrestling and finishing my degree, it became an increasingly difficult task to manage just having not only the responsibilities of school and an athletic career, but also the things that come with, now moving in a new wife into my household and things like that. And
yeah, it's tough for a young man to take on with all that other stuff in your life.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot. My personality is that I can handle anything, so I didn't think of anything much of it. I was just going to do it, right? And definitely was more difficult than I thought it would be, right? So Coach DeLito was the head coach at Fresno. I remember going up to him and telling him, like, hey, I'm gonna have a kid. He's like, all right, well, we'll see you, Curly. I said, what? And he's like, you're done. I'm like, no, I'm not quitting. He's like, I've seen it happen before. You're quitting. I was like, are you kicking me off the team? He's like, no, I just know how it goes. I was like,
That's
all
experience right there. Yeah.
He knew. It was crazy. But, you know, so, you know, that year ends. My son's born September 4th of that year. So I think that it was probably before the season, right?
Yeah.
And I end up, you know, trying to stay in school, and me and my ex are just having difficulties as, you know, young parents, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
She ends up leaving. We end up, you know, divorcing. I stay there, try to make it all work and everything. And that's so while she was still there, before she left, I picked up jobs right around campus to help support us, right? So I was working as a bouncer at a nightclub. I was working on campus as a bicycle repair person for kids that rented bicycles, right? And then, you know, wrestling and going to school.
Yeah.
So after my ex had, you know, left and I was living on my own, I was, you know, working more nights at the club, and I am talking with this guy, and his name's Punch, right? He's one of the bouncers.
Punch.
Yeah. That's what they all called him. I don't even know the guy's name to this day, right? But he's like, oh, you're a wrestler? And I was like, yeah, I wrestled for Fresno and stuff like that. He's like, oh, that's cool. It's like, you ever, or what do you say? He's like, I do some martial arts. I'm like, oh, yeah? And he's like, yeah, I do jiu-jitsu. And, I mean, I had heard of jiu-jitsu, right? But, you know, I think I knew who Hoist Gracie was, right? But never done any or anything like that. And so he's like, oh, you should come down to the gym. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Kind of cocky, right, about it. And so I'll go over there and stuff. And we go and we're grappling. Like, and it was so weird. Like, I don't know if he had a key to the gym or what, but there was nobody in there. It was this, like, dark, like, yellow light, like, one light in the middle of, like, this, like, old rundown, like, hole in the wall place with some mats, right?
This is in Fresno somewhere.
This is in Fresno. I can't remember even where it was, but I go over there and I'm rolling with the guy, and I do the typical classic wrestler mistake, right? And just bury my head into a double on him, and he throws in a guillotine. Yeah. And I'm sitting there driving. You know, I've got good posture, at least, you know, in that position, right? I'm kind of, I've got my head up, right? Because, or not my head, my hips up, right? My butt's pointing the sky. So I'm not really feeling a ton of it, but I feel he's cranking on it. And so I'm kind of keeping higher, right? So I'm kind of circling. I circled to the wrong side, right? And I realized that I'm kind of in danger, but I'm, you know, super strong at the time, right? Because I've been training so hard, and I just ripped my head out of this guy's guillotine, and I just break half my tooth on my left side doing it, right? And he's looking at me, just shocked. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I think I broke one of my teeth." He's like, "Bro, like, it's not that serious. Like, it's just how I roll, right? I get serious when I grapple." And he's like, "Oh, we're done. I'm not doing this anymore with you." I'm like, okay. But I enjoyed it, and then I think I recognized, you know, kind of what we're talking about, right? When you kind of find something difficult, right? It's easy to kind of recognize that there is some value there, right? And so I started going to every once in a while on weekends over to this place in Fresno that some of the wrestlers would go to. I forget what it was called also. Just roll with the guys over there. I do remember meeting like some like undercover sheriff, which I thought was like nuts because he looked like he was just like a biker, right?
Yeah.
And like he was, they told me he dressed like that so he can, pass for a normal person, right?
Yeah.
But he was pretty decent. All the guys, I mean, they seemed decent, but it's hard to tell because they didn't really have the perspective that I have now, right?
Right.
But
different time too.
different times,
Yeah.
right? People were still rolling like exclusively gi for the most part. Even if you didn't have a gi, you just go in there and they get to use their grips on you, and
you're screwed.
yeah. But I think I did fairly well. I think I caught on real fast that to kind of not drop my head, stay postured, and pass guards, right? And really enjoyed it. And then I think that when I knew that with everything that was going on in my life, and looking at needing to kind of man up and support a child, right, and child support and things like that, that I needed to do something kind of immediately beneficial, right, and change the course of my life. And whether or not that would have been school or what it was, I needed to do something. And I felt like, with the amount of investment that I had put into grappling up until that point, the only logical, and wanting to be a professional athlete of some sort, the only logical course of action was to go and fight professionally.
Yeah. Try to make it to the UFC, right?
Yep. And so after kind of figuring out what I was going to do and fucking up for a bit, I came back to Stockton, went to train at, I think it was Stockton Fight Club.
Yeah, off of Thornton Road.
Off of Thornton Road, yeah, right down the street from here. Yeah. And went over there with Justin Pfeiffer, I think it was.
Okay.
He was kind of a larger guy, right? And they had a cage, right? So to me, as a novice, not knowing anything about the sport, I see, all this stuff, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna fight here, right? And so it's kind of training over there, doing a little bit of boxing and stuff like that. Then I also was going to JC Academy because Ernest rolled over there, right?
Yeah.
And Mello was my coach in high school. I mean, I haven't mentioned up until this point, but a huge impact and, contributor to the success that I had, because I, otherwise wouldn't have had a high level heavyweight to work with and to roll with, because I just smash everyone around me, right? And, amazing coaching staff, Val Cabernet, amazing coach, Mike Sandler, amazing coach. The whole coaching staff was great and really made a huge impact for the good, right, in my life and my skill set. So I knew Ernest did jiu-jitsu. When I was in high school, I didn't really think much of it. And then when I found out, or when I came back into town and I wanted to do it, I hit him up and I was like, hey, I want to train. Where do I go? And so started going over to the gym downtown Stockton.
California
Street. And then trained there until they moved. And then we were at
Japanese Center, right?
the Japanese Center for a bit. And that was always fun. I actually
love those times.
Yeah,
the green mats.
Yeah, I enjoyed that gym actually a lot. There's a lot of people that were going over there. It was a great time. And then finally he moved over to Pacific. But in between that time, I'd kind of been, rolling off and on, right? And I was kind of rolling over at Stockton Fight Club, and James ended up promoting some fights, and he was going to get me a fight, and he asked me if I wanted to fight, and he said that he'd like me to fight Justin. And I was like, well, sparring partners fight their sparring partners all the time, right?
Yeah. You didn't think nothing of it, right?
Because I don't kind of have an emotional attachment to it, like, oh, we're boys, we can't do this. Like, well, we're it's a sport, right? And in wrestling, you compete against, the people you train with if you go to a tournament, right? I mean, it's not. There shouldn't be any bad blood, right? This is just a competition, right? It's just an extreme physical competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
In which you can do damage, right? But, we should be able to do it, and it's all love afterwards. He didn't like that. He didn't want me to train at his gym after that. So I went to train with Eric, and like full time, right? And
it's about the time when I met you, actually, if I remember right. It was right before your fight. I remember Bobby and Greg going in there with you a lot, and
yeah,
and that's when I first ran across you guys.
Yeah. You guys started just showing up, coming into town, right?
Our little clique,
yeah. You and Chad and everybody, yeah. So, I guess eventually, I don't know what happened, but Justin, they found him a different person. I got a different person. Okay, cool. But it kind of just, went its course, never really kind of got back over there with them. Yeah. Oh, it's cool with them. Still see him every once in a while and stuff like that. But started training there. And then a few days a week, I would make it out to the Ice House and train over there. That's train over there with Steve
Moses.
and Moses. It was Moses' place, right? But Heath would go over there a fair amount. A lot of old school fighters used to go over there. The Diaz brothers used to go over there every once in a while. It was a really cool gym just in general, right? I mean,
it was from a Rocky movie.
It totally was.
I remember you. We'd ride in your Impala, and maybe even before the Impala, like the Toyota or whatever you had.
Yeah.
But we'd ride over there together, and something I remember is we'd always leave with like black eyes or busted noses or something. Like it was a tough gym.
Yeah, I mean, like we used to bang there, right? I mean, I think that's kind of went a little bit away, right?
Yeah.
I think people don't do it as regularly as now. And we also used to, not just use box gloves. We'd go, full throttle and, MMA gloves, right?
Yeah, with no headgear a lot of times.
Yeah. So, I mean, like...
I remember times with you sparring with guys like Steve Hernandez and it getting a little out of hand, and man, maybe even guys like Anthony, but a bunch of guys were trying to fight over there. They had a few knuckleheads, that would really let the sparring get out of control. And
yeah, absolutely. And it was good though. It was good. It was like a rite of passage, right? If you showed up, you kind of had to go through it, right? And Yeah, Steve, haven't seen him in a while. Steve Fernandez was awesome. Loved training with him. Same with Anthony.
Yeah.
Kalani.
Yeah.
Right. It was a great time. I mean, really, really enjoyed it. And
that place was sick though. Like I'm having little flashbacks of times there, man. And just the mats were all jumbled together. Mm-hmm. Like there was always shit floating down from that ceiling, like dirt, dust, and sawdust or whatever it was.
I feel like in a clean gym, you always are kind of, I don't know. I'm not putting down clean gyms. I think it's great, right? I think it's important, right? But it was way easier to get gritty in a gritty gym.
Fuck yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Like,
I agree with that.
I was totally down to be dirty and just, get to work, right? And punish my body.
Yeah. Moses put the fighters through a good like camp though.
Yeah, Moses was great, and Jen was an awesome fighter, right?
Yeah.
And then Jen's uncle, right? Loved sparring with that guy. He was, he was an older cat, but real technical, and really, helped you kind of raise your skill level.
Yeah.
And then
that kid OJ, I used to spar with him a lot. He was 155er. He used to fight in Jackson a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to stay away from the big guys like you, but but you were going on a nice little run with the MMA. I think you finished your first fight in like 50 something seconds. I was cage side that one. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. Went out. I think we might have touched gloves, or maybe he threw on me before. I can't really remember, but I just kind of dropped like I was, ducked it, but dropped into a double, picked him up, and put him on the mat, and threw a couple shots, and he ref stopped it when he started going limp. So
yeah, you had a lot of hype around you at that time though, being a heavyweight, and the heavyweight division was always like lacking some star power. At least in the UFC, there was like Tim Sylvia back then, but we really needed some amateur heavyweights to break through on that scene. Yeah. And people saw something in that first 45 seconds or whatever it was in you, JC, that they wanted to keep putting you on cards, and they wanted to keep promoting your fights.
I think that people in general want to see the capabilities of what humans are, or what humans are capable of, exemplified in front of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's speed or strength or agility, right? They want to see the maximum ability in front of them. And heavyweights are typically huge guys, right? And there's a fine line between slow and boring and clumsy,
and technical.
Yes. Yeah. And so when you can kind of see something that somebody that's really big and is fairly technical and athletic and have the excitement, I think that people just really gravitate towards that, right?
Oh yeah, and your fights were very exciting. I remember you finished the first one in that TKO in less than a minute, and then your next one, I think you choked the guy out, rear naked choke. That was the time at Stockton, right?
It was the north-south choke.
That was the Heath choke in Santa Rosa. I was there with you guys on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was funny because we were working a lot at the slaughterhouse, and I remember a lot of times with Steve Heath, and you were actually working on that choke, put it together, and finish the guy. It was beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, there's when you're passing someone's guard, right? You don't have to just stop getting into half guard, or you can just keep on going, right? And I think that for MMA, that makes a ton of sense, because if you get caught in someone's half guard, right, then they have the opportunity to kind of shield themselves from punches, right, and then maybe work under you or on the side, and then like maybe take your back or something, right? And so if you can just kind of clear that leg and get all the way around, then north south's nice, because you still have attacks, right, but their defense isn't all that great, unless especially for big guys, right? It's hard for them to kind of pull their legs up and then go back all the way back over to your back, right?
Very much so. Yeah. I remember though, a lot of hype. You finished that north-south choke, then it was a rear naked choke after that.
Yeah.
And you were going on a nice little run. I remember opportunities coming your way at the Stockton Arena. I remember somebody might have backed out or couldn't get licensed in time. And I remember the promoters coming up and offering like Cain Velasquez, right?
Yeah, both me and Kane were at the Stockton Arena for a fight, and it was the weigh-ins the day before, and both of our opponents backed out. And so we were there to fight, and the promoter asked me, "Hey, do you want to fight Kane?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so they went back, and they couldn't get something right with the money or something.
It was a big back and forth negotiation. I remember.
Yeah, and I mean, it was getting a little bit irritating to me because they kept on coming back to me and asking. I was like, I just want to fucking fight. Like, let's just get it going, right?
Yeah,
like
whatever it takes.
I spent a long time preparing for this fight, right? Yeah. And ultimately, long story short, it didn't end up happening. Really frustrating. I don't think either of us fought.
No,
to tell you the truth.
Neither one of you guys were on that card. But
Yeah.
imagine, like, I remember at the time you were undefeated, Kane was undefeated, and I remember them saying something in regards of the UFC is looking at this guy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't really remember. For me at the time, it was just, another fighter. I heard that he had wrestled at Arizona State, and I was, excited to fight with another wrestler, right? I felt like my hands were really, really good at the time.
That would have been an interesting fight.
And so I was excited to fight another wrestler because I felt like my striking was really good and really clean, and I could stand with him and force him into a shot in which I knew I was capable of defending, right?
Yeah.
And either taking his back from there or just put him down to the mat and then mount and ground and pound or something, right? But
it's interesting. Like, I thought, like, man, in the amateur circuit or, the smaller circuit back then, if you were following it deep, like, that was a very evenly matched, it would have been an interesting fight. And I almost wonder where would things have gone,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough because I would assume that the injury that ended up taking me out of the sport was going to happen no matter what, right? And so whether or not it was then or later on, right? I mean, it would have been, really rewarding to have fought, and, from my perspective, and I assume any competitive athlete's perspective, I would have won, right? Like that's how you
have to think like that.
That's how I always think, right?
Yeah.
I always believe that I can win regardless of the situation, right? But, it definitely would have been an awesome opportunity to have fought him, right? And, but to my point that I was saying is that, I feel like based on, getting vertigo and the manner in which it happened, it was going to happen inevitably, right? So
let's actually back up and talk about that. And you wasn't it a fight in Santa Rosa?
Yeah,
right?
it was my second fight in Santa Rosa, and it was against another wrestler, John Devine. So same situation. Really excited to fight him. Another wrestler wrestled at Bakersfield. We came out, and that same strategy that I felt like I would have went into it with Kane, right, is been working really hard on my striking, felt really clean, felt really good. Came out, we both jabbed, and he kind of grazed me with his jab. I got a good piece of him, and when I kind of like reset my eyes and I was looking down the pipe, his head was like in the stars, right? And so kind of pieced him up a bit, put him against the cage, hit him with a couple combos, and hit him with a clean right. And it buckled him. He kind of like, his knees gave out, he went down, and I kind of like hit him with like a flurry of like little like hooks, right? And I was like, it's not enough, right? So I hit him with like a hard uppercut, and he just like kind of like instinctively like lunged, right, being a wrestler, into a double. I landed with my right leg butterfly in, right? I just swept him real quick, got into mount, and I just started taking off on him, right? And probably inexperienced. I probably should have just been choosing shots, but I just, thought like, hey, I'm just going to go hard and end this fight. And bell rings. I'm like, oh, okay. So get up, do a 4 roll off him and stand up. And I'm just like, the whole like ring seems like kind of tilted, right? And I'm like walking, but I'm not walking straight. And the ref like kind of like leads me over to my corner, and I sit down. I'm like, just kind of like, what's going on, right? So everything's kind of feeling like underwater a little bit and kind of muffled. And I'm sitting there, they're wiping me off and stuff. I don't really like care. I don't really think about saying something, but I'm like, all right, well, we'll just roll with the flow and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And bell rings, I stand up, and I'm like, this like dizziness like isn't going away, right? It's like not like really like dizzy, but it's like my sense of understanding my direction is skewed, right? It's like not like up and down, left and right, back and forth anymore. It's like moving, right? And kind of like walking, but I can't like really be on my toes. So I'm trying to balance. And I'm like walking up this guy in front of me. And then he's like, fuck the standing with this guy. He just like bear hugs me, right? And then trips me. I like am not able to really like respond because I can't like be on my toes, So I go down. I'm like, oh, this is like not good. But I just am defending him, get him in guard, right? He's like trying to drop bombs and like missing them, right? And just like, reacting. I try and like throw a couple of like shots from below. I'm not really able to like get my my hooks in and sweep. Like I'm just kind of like stationary, right? Just trying to like dodge punches and things like that. And the next 2 rounds are just like that. And it's just like fucked. It's just irritating, right? I just don't know, how.
Did you tell your corner at the time, like, I'm feeling a little funky, or?
I just like, I don't know. Like, I think it goes back to, kind of everything resting on your own shoulders, right? Like, what are they going to do, right? Yeah. Like,
Stop
give me a hug,
yeah.
right?
Right.
Honestly,
you don't
like,
want them to stop it.
Well, honestly, like stopping the fight, like didn't even occur to me, right? That doesn't even like register with me as like a possibility.
Yeah.
And I would never even ask for it, right? So I just kind of dealt with the hand I was dealt and tried to, get out and move. I think at one point he ended up, I maybe tried to sweep or something, but he ended up on my back and he had like a full rear naked on me and it wasn't doing shit. And like the ref comes down and he's like looking at me and I look over, I'm like, give him a thumbs up. But as far as like my ability to read like my position and use my, leverage or, whatever it is to maneuver out, it just kind of did not exist and didn't even exist for the next year. I remember
still having issues for a year after.
a year. I couldn't lay down flat for a year without getting nauseous and like the whole room spinning. Right.
Wow.
I mean, like I couldn't like
Did you see a doctor about it?
I did. After the fight, I went to the doctor and they diagnosed me with benign positional vertigo, which is essentially, in certain positions you will get vertigo, right? It's benign. It's not life-threatening, right? And they said that it was inside your ear canal, right? Your ear canal is like a level, right? That you'd see at like a construction site. There's a little bubble in there, right? And it tells you like when something's flat, right? Well, your ear canal is like a series of tubes that tell you which direction that you are, right? Well, there's little hair follicles that line that called cilia. Sometimes they end up getting calcified and they can break off. And then once they're floating around in there, you can imagine like that bubble just is getting shooken up, right? So you can't really tell what something's level, right?
Wow.
And so that was happening to me within the fight. And I feel like it was just my forward roll.
Yeah. You think it was the forward roll? You don't think it was any punches or anything?
He only hit me with the little jab in the beginning and nothing else.
Do you think that possibly like the years of football, the years of wrestling, like that was just the last straw that needed to?
It very well could be. I mean, like, I put a lot of pressure and damage on my body, right? Up until that point, right? So,
I mean, in your fighting career, you really didn't take much punishment in any of those fights. Nothing crazy.
No, not at all. And I mean, the most punishment I took was from in that fight, in the last 2 rounds after I, had the vertigo kind of set in. But I mean, went to the doctor afterwards, got MRIs and everything like that. That's what they diagnosed me with. They had me doing these kind of maneuvers. They prescribed me some medication that would help with the sickness or the getting sick from the vertigo, right? But nothing that can like fix it, right? And I was just like, I'm not going to take this. I am like.
Do you still have issues with it?
Every once in a while, like sometimes I'll be like hanging out somewhere and just standing there, and it'll feel like a little bit of like a tremor, like an earthquake happened or something like that, right? Almost like the ground kind of moved for a second. I do still have tinnitus in my left ear, so like I hear like kind of ringing in my ear and things like that. But yeah, I mean, so it's the tough thing about and the realization that you have to kind of confront as an athlete is that there's not only is there a lot of work and preparation that you have to go through, but there's also a lot of things that have to go right that aren't within your control.
Yeah, there's a high risk of like everything going wrong in just a split second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And I think that's normal for everything in life, but it's definitely amplified.
Yes.
Because, those tests that you go through require a high degree of precision, right, for everything to kind of come together.
Yeah, very true. So after that, you dabbled a little bit in training, but you took a lot of time off and obviously you weren't pursuing the MMA. Jiu-jitsu wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
But you took a lot of time off. What made you go back to jiu-jitsu? What was that driving force, or what was that moment where you're like, I'm going to go back and I'm really going to commit to this?
So, I think I never actually wanted to end up not doing it, right? I mean, I tried to go back to training after 6 months, and it was like I had a stroke or something. Like I remember shooting in on this kickboxer from Modesto. I forget his name. He was a really good guy, but he wasn't a grappler. I remember like shooting in on his leg and just like falling over to my left side. Like I didn't have anything to post. Like it was like it didn't, like my body didn't understand anymore. And that was really, really disheartening. And so I kind of, after going through that and not being able to like even shake the fact that when I laid down, it would persist, right? I just kind of had to confront the fact that I wouldn't be able to just like grapple again. That's how I felt, right? And like maybe like something where I just was standing the whole time, but I mean like it's very limited at that point, right?
Right.
And so I decided like, I got to figure out again what I'm going to do with my life, right? And so kind of thought about going into the military, going back to school. I ended up deciding, well, maybe I want to go to the military so that I can pay for my school and not have, any student debt, right? So I went to the Navy and was going to go into the Navy. They went and had me go and take the ASVAB. And then I ended up getting my score, and I scored in the 97th percentile. And so that made me feel really confident that I could go back to school. Like they were telling me that I could, maybe do like military intelligence or like nuclear engineering or something like that. And I was really, really close to going.
That would be sick.
It seemed really cool. Yeah, I was excited to do it, but they were telling me that if I did that, I would have to sign over my rights to all my kids, right? And that means I wouldn't have any parental rights to my son, my first son, and then my kids now with my wife, Christine, right? Lana and JJ. And so that was a bit much to me. And then also, I'd have to move my family around. And so there were a lot of like drawbacks that wouldn't have existed when I was younger, right?
What would be the reason they'd make you sign the rights away?
So I mean, with my current wife, I don't think it was a big deal, right? Because we're married. Yeah. But I think it's like has to do with custody or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Like
because they're moving you around the world so much.
Yeah, I don't think I could have any custody rights.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's what the recruiter told me, that they would need some paperwork filled out, and it took a long time and a lot of court hearings and things like that to just get where I was, which I wasn't even really happy with anyway. But to kind of give that up seemed like a poor decision, right? And I felt confident that I could, even after being out of school for so long and never being an incredibly committed student anyway. I mean, I remember going to class with the intention of engaging with the teacher and, talking about their life so we didn't do any work, right? Like it was my intention to not do work at school, right? Yeah. Not to do work. And so, yeah, once I had that confidence, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. So went and enrolled in Delta, did my prereqs there, transferred to UOP since it was close, right? Wouldn't have to commute or move my family. And got my bachelor's in electrical engineering. Was asked to stay on and do a graduate teaching assistantship there. Said they'd pay for my college and pay me, wages, right? And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so did that, got my master's, and, during that time, my son was in high school, right? And I was doing, a bunch of insanity, right? So I was getting in shape, and I felt like, I could at least go help out with wrestling practice. So I'd go and help him out and stuff like that. And then took him over to
the shed, right?
Yeah, took him over the shed. And then I also took him once over to it was the Planet or 10th Planet gym over down by I-5.
Hammer, right?
Hammer and I-5. Yeah. I forget who was that owned it.
Tim.
Yeah, it was Tim. Yeah. So
Freeman.
Yeah. So took him over there, saw Tim and stuff like that. It was awesome to see him and stuff. It'd been a long time and stuff. And he was, one of the original Shingu crew, right? Yeah. And wanted Adam to do a little training for jiu-jitsu, right? I think I gained some weight back then, and so I had a very poor performance, which irritated me. But it wasn't the end of the world for me, because it was kind of something that I had.
You needed that motivation, right?
Yeah, I had a complicated relationship with it, right? Because I felt like, there was a piece that injury like took away from me, right? And now I had all this time that I had been away and lost, a ton of, mobility and flexibility, right? Which is a huge component to athleticism, right? And, endurance and strength. And so I don't think it, really it bothers me when I do poorly, right? But it definitely motivates me to, push myself to at least see, what's the delta between like where I was and what I am now, right? And so after doing that and coaching my son in wrestling and things and getting my daughter into jiu-jitsu, I just started spending more time at the gym and doing more there, and never really had any intention of trying to. So I never really had any concerted intention to get back to where I was or anything like that. For me, I think that I want to be healthy, right? I want to, whatever it is that I'm doing in life, I want to do 100% and win at, right? And rise to the top of the game and be the best at, right? And I mean, I have loved grappling and always loved grappling, and I want to, have the opportunity to share that, right, with people. And I enjoy competition, right? And so to compete and feel good about it, to help others or to teach others, right? you have to be capable, right? And so, a portion of me trying to, get in shape and everything like that is mainly to, make anything that I do, whether it's, coaching or rolling or competing, just more competent and valuable, right? So
let me ask you something. So obviously you guys come from a pretty large family, but having a younger brother that also got into it around the same time and pursued an MMA career and had quite a few fights, and then to continue his journey as well. Talk to me about what that means to you, and talk to me about kind of like, obviously that can motivate you to keep pushing, having your brother still in there, and I know how the Curley family is. You guys are very competitive with everything you do, so you're not going to let Bobby get one over on you.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we were younger, I used to tell him like, "Oh, you'll never beat me. You'll never beat me." And I mean, do I want him to beat me? No. Would I be satisfied for him to roll me up? And when I mean beat me, I mean like just dominate me, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course I want that for him, right? And I mean, he's my younger brother, and like I love him, and I want him to be the best him, right? But, fundamentally, you're doing someone a disservice if you're just going to let that happen, right? So I'm never going to let that happen. So, and I mean, that's in general in the sports that we do, right?
Yes.
Whether it's MMA, kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whatever it is, these combat sports, you are doing that person a disservice if you are not going hard on them. It doesn't mean that you just beat the shit out of somebody, but you don't give someone a false sense of what their capability is, because they're going to go into a match potentially, if they're going to be doing this professionally or seriously, and they will get hurt if they're not taking this seriously, right? So they need to know that they need to push themselves, right? And so that's the way that I've kind of,
Do you step it up a little bit with Bobby when you guys go?
I don't know. I mean,
there's got to be a little bit of brother on brother action,
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a different feeling, right? I mean, I don't. I definitely think that I don't give things away the same to him the way that I will with other people, right? I'll kind of like let things, go and just kind of work through it or something like that. But I'll make him like take every inch that he gets, right? Yeah. Like that he has to battle through it. So I definitely, make that tougher. But then I also like, have known him his whole life. So I not only like expect, but wholeheartedly believe in his ability to take the punishment. So I don't feel bad to give it, right? Whereas, someone else, I don't know if I'm going to break him, right? But I don't feel like I'm going to break him. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have given it back and forth throughout the years and in and out of the gym multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was always the oldest brother, right?
Yeah.
And Bobby and Johnny fought all the time. So
I remember you breaking up a few Bobby Johnny fights at the Curley residence.
Yeah. I mean, that was my main role in the household, was to babysit all the younger siblings, right? And I'd usually let them kind of get into it for a bit, but a lot of times it was, throwing them across the room or something like that, or holding one of them down or both of them down, right? And, having to put the smack down, right?
Being the big brother, I mean, obviously, when you get into some shit at school, you're always like, hey, I'm going to go get my big brother to fuck you up. right?
Yeah,
How many
I never had
times?
that.
I mean, and you're the biggest brother too. Like you're not a little guy. Like,
Yeah.
Did you ever have to go defend any of them? Bobby?
You know, so I was out of high school by the time Bobby went to high school, right? And I mean, I think that he always knew that that was an option, but
he knew he could play the card if needed.
I think if he wanted to, but I also don't think that he's the type of person that would do that, right? I think he wanted to handle everything on his own, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that anybody even, gave him shit, right? Like, and he was lucky because everybody knew the Curleys when he came, right? And so
You laid the path for the Curley family.
Hope so. Yeah. But then also
really
to even magnify it more, 2 years when Bobby was a junior, then my brother Johnny was there, my cousin Michael,
Yeah.
and then our other cousin Timmy.
Yep.
And so now there's like 4 of these
Whole
fuckers
family
running around.
Curleys
Yeah.
running around, ready to throw.
And from what I hear, like Johnny and his little like crew were just like off the chain,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, yeah, that
I
was
ran
nuts.
with those boys too.
Yeah.
I know how it was.
Yeah, I remember all kinds of
Little-
incidents.
Little parties at the house. I remember it was like Johnny's birthday, and all these people start flocking into the house, and like JC's like, "No, you're not having a fucking party tonight." Like, and then it just turns wild, and
Yeah.
a lot of little moments. A lot of those parties ended with wrestling matches in the backyard, and
Yeah.
and sometimes in the house. They'd get wild.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had I guess depending on your perspective, either good role model or bad role model for that, because every time there was like an MMA fight or a boxing match, we were like boxing in the front yard, right? My dad would be having my brothers box, and then my dad would box me, right? And then, but when I was younger, right, I wasn't, I couldn't really do much to him, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I want to say I was like a junior in high school. He was like, okay, this big fucker, like I need to like really fight him. So he like kind of like threw like a feint jab and then followed it with a right and cracked the shit out of me. Like,
That's how you got your vertigo.
I know, right? He like went through me, but he overextended himself. So he was like past my head, and he was like chest to chest on me. And just instinctively, I like did like a vertical, like lateral, like almost like a suplex, and then landed chest to chest on him. And he was like, ugh. And he couldn't move. He couldn't get up. And we had to help him back inside, but he didn't want to box with me from then on. Yeah.
A funny story. It was right when I like started hanging out with Bobby and started getting real close with the family and stuff. And it was your second fight in Santa Rosa, or your first fight in Santa Rosa, but your second fight in general.
Okay.
And Bobby goes, "Hey," and I was like, "I really want to go to JC's fight." Bobby says, "Yeah, you could ride down with us, and you could stay with my dad and I in the hotel." And I'm okay, whatever,
Yeah.
And I remember the fucking car started overheating on the way, and he
Oh, no
would
shit.
not stop. And we're trying to make it to weigh-ins on time, and your dad is driving on the shoulder for like, I mean, we're talking like 8 miles on the bumpy parts that are supposed to wake you up.
Yeah.
And it was like brrrr for like 8 miles, bro. Like I could have reached out and touched every single car out the window. I was so scared to death on that trip.
Why was he driving on the side?
Dude, the car was overheating. He didn't want to stop because it would get worse when he stopped. So he's like, if I keep driving, we're going to make it to weigh-ins for one, and then we'll figure out what the fuck is wrong with the car after that.
That doesn't seem like that's how overheating of your car works.
Yeah, it was fucked up, dude. And And I just remember, so then we get to the hotel and it was just a nightmare. Like your dad was like, hey, yeah, you guys can't stay with me now because he was all pissed off about the car. Yeah.
So where'd you guys stay?
I think we stayed with him anyways.
I was going to say, like,
we were just like, whatever, dude. And
was he gonna kick down for a hotel room? He invited you up there, like, oh, now you don't have a room. Like, what?
Well, and Bobby was supposed to stay with him, but he was just like so pissed off about the car. He's like, no, you guys can't even stay with me now. So
that's funny.
Oh, it was a crazy experience.
Whose car was it?
It was his.
His?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
shit.
It was bad, dude. And then I think on the way home, your car overheated. Like it was a bad, like
somebody's
nightmare.
Putting shit in our gas or our coolant or what?
Yeah.
Like drain our coolant? What the fuck?
Yeah, wild experience though.
Yeah, yeah. I think me and my wife drove back together, or I don't know if she was. Yeah, I think so.
So from what I remember is you had your car, it overheated on the way back, or the engine blew or something. It was bad. We had to call AAA. You wanted to keep driving it. By the time you came back, you had to get the Impala.
Okay, yeah, that makes. I was gonna say, yeah, that makes sense because.
You might have called in some favors at Chase Chevrolet with some sponsors or something, but yeah, it was a nightmare of a trip.
Yeah, I think I came back and I was just dealing with it, right? I mean, like that's just the type of person I am, right? I don't really complain too much about things, right? Hence fighting the rest of my fight with Vertigo, right? I just don't complain about shit, and like I ended up coming back and Laverne heard about my car, and she's like, you need to go get a new car. I was like, oh, I don't know. It's like go talk to Chase. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like, I'm calling. You're going over there right now. I went over there and they set me up with a sweet deal.
Yeah,
so
that's great, man. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about now. Let's talk about what are your future goals for your jiu-jitsu journey. Obviously you got your family wrestling, you got your daughter in there, and it's crazy because like I remember when you guys were first pregnant with her, and now she's a full grown child.
Yeah,
so
she's about to be 16 here April 2nd.
Wild. But so obviously having her in wrestling, it's going to keep you in that scene and keep you around and maybe in the coaching room a little bit. But talk about what your future goals are in general.
So I coached for a little bit. I coached East Union. I was the head coach there. I coached at Lincoln High for a bit, but my kind of career path was not really set in stone at that point, right? And so I was still trying to kind of figure out my life after grappling, after fighting, and so now that's fairly well solidified, right? And so as time moves forward and I have that stability on my job side, I want to continue to train and get better. Want to continue to coach wrestling, whether or not that leads to me being a member of the coaching staff officially, or being a head coach of a school, or what. I don't know. I mean, it's really nice to not have the responsibility of everything that goes around with leading the team and scheduling and things like that, and not having to be at every practice if I have something come up, right? Because my job is fairly fluid too, right? And so I think that for me the most important thing is to kind of be there for my kids and be a part of their journey, right? And give to them everything that I can, and honestly anyone that's interested in taking anything away from me, right? I mean, owe a ton of, my success to those that help me, right? And I'm not looking for, compensation for it, right? I just enjoy doing it, right? It's part of my life.
It's part of you now.
Yeah, and I'm happy, to, share that with anybody, right? I'm not looking, this whole like give back type of thing, right? I just, like doing it and being there, right? And, I still have, reservations for, the way that my body wasn't able to kind of keep up with my aspirations, right? And so, I mean, I definitely want to kind of push my body to be as, close to, where I was physically back then. But, whether or not I do is, undetermined, and I'm okay with wherever it is, because
The path, right?
yeah,
Back to that.
exactly. Yeah.
It's the journey. It's the path. Everything's preparing you. I mean, regardless what the success points are, those are just stops in the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always more to it. And if you set the bar really high and then surpass that bar, it's wild to see where things go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, whether or not I'm going to, have more competitions or not, that's undetermined. I mean, I've competed a bit since I've came back, right?
You had some success with that too. You've done pretty well. You had a couple super fights and
Yep. Had some success with that at was it 209 beatdown
916, right?
Oh yeah
209 916.
yeah that's what it was.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with names, people, events, right?
Okay, I have to bring something up.
Yeah.
Okay, I've talked about this on the show before, and I've talked to you about this. Okay, there was a story. I let Bobby borrow an old gi of mine.
Okay,
it was a Gracie Sports gi, and he never gave it back. He did a typical Bobby move, right? You were his older brother. I'm sure he took clothes or something of yours and never gave it back.
Yeah.
But it's at some point, I heard a rumor that you gave it to a buddy of yours and let him use it like to go train. Now, I reached out to that buddy like a creepo. And I didn't even reach out to him. I went really creepy because he didn't have a Facebook or whatever. I reached out to his wife.
Okay.
And I laid out this weird story of, hey, I've known the Curleys a while.
Yeah.
I heard JC might have given him this gi to borrow. If it's around your house, if you see it anywhere, it's sentimental to me.
Yeah.
Where do we stand on the lost gi of...
Okay. So I've been asked this a bunch of times, right? And I have a Gracie gi. It has a Gracie patch on it. Okay. It's at the house. If it's yours and you want it, you can have it.
Yeah.
Okay. But I had always thought the gi that I have, and so you're going to have to take a look at it and let me know. I always thought this was Ernest gi that he lent me a long time ago, that because it has a rip in it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember rolling with him and it ripping. And I was like, oh, shit, I rip your gi. And he's like, oh, just get a patch for it.
Yeah.
Okay. That gi exists. That's what I thought it is. But then Bobby told me that was your gi.
It could.
And so you need to look at it and take a look. I probably should have brought it here, but I didn't think about it.
It's okay, but I've just been trying to search.
Would it fit me?
No.
Because I wear this. I've worn this gi.
So I want to say it was an A4. It was a little bit bigger, but it was shrunken down and handed down to several people.
Oh, really?
The rumor
Is it
was...
worth any money?
No, probably not. Just sentimental value, but
Are you just telling me that?
The
so I
rumor
don't sell
was
your
Caesar gave it to Eric. Eric gave it to John, who got me into jiu-jitsu. John gave it to me. I gave it to Bobby on loan, and Bobby ripped the pants, and I never got the jacket back.
Well, that seems
right,
valuable.
Yeah, it's my first.
Like I could get some money for it.
Yeah, and I mean, if it was handed down from Caesar, that's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah,
but
no, for sure.
I for sure reached out to your buddy's wife and laid out this crazy story. He messages me back and says, I've never seen the gi. I don't know what you're talking about, but I know JC, and if it's there, he'll help you find it.
Okay, so here's what we need to do. I need to bring the gi. Okay, you need to confirm or deny whether or not it's the gi that you're looking for.
I got pictures to help
All right, I'll take a look at them.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then we have to have Bobby in here with me.
Yeah.
And we need to come.
We got to clarify it.
Yeah, we got to figure out what happened.
We could put our heads together and figure this out.
Because for the life of me, I can't understand why Bobby would have given me a gi to wear that wouldn't fit me.
But Bobby was a notorious person for leaving things behind places. And I mean, I remember he left a sauna suit of mine at your grandma's house for like years.
Oh, really?
And I never got that one back either.
Yeah.
So there was always little things with Bobby. You know, he would just leave stuff, take it on loan, and then leave stuff.
Yeah, I get that because I am similar, and so that's why I'm not saying. Like all my friends, like they'll loan me something, and I'll like forget I have it, right? And they'll have to call me. And then I'll get yelled at. Yeah. Like, if I lend you something, you're supposed to bring it back. I forget I had it.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I think that's because growing up with brothers and having your brothers, like, taking stuff from you, like, you quickly get over the fact that, like, things are not yours anymore. And you're just like, oh, they have it? Okay, whatever. Yeah. And you forget that, like, any belongings are your own, right?
Yeah. You give up all your personal belongings. That's good stuff, man. Well, JC, dude, it's been an honor having you on the show and getting to hear your deep history in grappling. And I'd like to get you on in the future again and talk about some more current stuff. But I always like to give our guests a few minutes just to shout anybody out and take the time. If you want to shout out training partners, family members, it's all good. But again, it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor getting to talk to you and getting to have you as a training partner for all these years and an influence. Like, you don't know how much I looked up to you back then, even in the early days when I had a shoulder problem and I was watching you do those fights. That was inspiring to me. So getting to have you in here and having you on this episode has been amazing.
Well, hey, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on. And, you know, just want to shout out Stockton Jiu-Jitsu Academy, Rich Flores, he's great. Len Dubois, right? You know, Bobby, my brother, right? Also, special thank you to Eric Shingu, you know, for everything that he did, putting me into this this form of martial arts, right? Yeah. He was a great influence and taught me a lot. Same with his brother was a great resource for me, Dennis, and you know, everything that Moses did back in the day, you know, that was great. You know, I was very appreciative. And you know, Steve was a great help too, great mentor out there. And yeah, no, it was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So once again, guys, you can download the podcast each and every week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere where you download podcasts, we are there. But like, subscribe, give us a review. Let us know if you're enjoying the episodes that we have for you. And once again, thank you to everyone for downloading. Thank you for being a part of this episode. This is Dave, and we are...
This is Grapplers Talk.